The 25-26 season started on Saturday up on the banks of the Sinseldike, a 2-0 loss to Lincoln. But with 45 games still to go, there's plenty of life left in the old dog yet. With new signings coming through the door thick and fast, and Ross wearing a splendid new Tonki United shirt, we're hopeful that the next few weeks are going to be a positive one for Reading Football Club.
It's in our hands, isn't it? It's still in our hands. All right, yeah. Our league position is still in our hands. You know, it's been a game, but we're still got chances.
Ross, your hair looks extra glossy today. Is there anything going on there? Have you done anything different?
No, it's just a nice sunny day in Maine, and like you said, I'm wearing my Tonki United shirt, my my adult team shirt today, so I'm just feeling I'm glowing, with extra exuberance. We never win on opening day, do we? So I don't expect it anymore. I know there was Derby not that long ago, but other than that, September 2020. Never happens. Even the 106 season, right? Didn't we lose or we drew on opening day? I don't know, but
no, we lost to Plymouth. Yeah, we lost to Plymouth.
There you go. Yeah. So we never do well on opening day, do we?
And the last time we beat Lincoln in Lincoln, I was 6 months old. So
okay. And were you on the Tilehurst end at that point when you were 6 months old?
Okay. No.
Just checking. But hey,
we're good to go. Episode 426. Huge thank you as always to the Amazons and ZC Said Films who are propping us up once again this season. They weren't at the Purple Turtle after all that. It was a different band whose name I still can't pronounce, but it wasn't the Amazons.
I like that they're doing a Reading only festival. By the way, it looks like this band are they called Bevendine? I think are playing in. And
I thought it was Ben Verdine. I got a bit like, maybe they've obviously not.
They've renamed Ben. You see, they were Bevendine last week, and then when they heard your CoCom's debut, they were like, "Right, we're inspired. We gotta be called Ben and Veen now." So I wasn't sure if I'd dip into that in the right in the intro or in the.
Well, do you know what? I would love to talk about it. Let's talk about it in the recap, which we're going to do right now. Right, Ross. 2-0. Where do you want to start?
Let's not talk about that for a minute. Let's avoid that with some chat about your co-commentary debut. Mr. Catchpole invited you on up to the pie box, as it were, the pie in the sky. And you made your debut, didn't you? You sounded great. How was it from your side?
Did you listen to it? Listen to the whole thing?
Yeah. I have to. I'm literally, Ben, even if I wanted to not listen to it, my options would be mute the television, which I'll never do because the sound of crowd noise gives me life. That is my escapism, is the crowd noise almost. But if I wanted to, have the crowd noise, I had to have Ben and Phil in my ears. Listen to all of it. Liked you clutching. The bit that struck me the most, Tilehurst End podcast, was when Pereira made a high claim and you described it as a cat plucking a piece of chicken out of the air or something. And Phil, who was doing a very good job of sort of like massaging you through the game at certain times, just had no idea what to do with that other than to laugh. So I very much enjoyed that one.
No difference to a pod, really. People listen to this will know the situation now. So Royals TV has become in-house, so it's become bespoke, whereas previously, last year, talk about the reverse game, for example, you would be able to buy an audio pass, but it would have been BBC Berkshire commentary. And so the new regime has decided, for various reasons, I would imagine, to go, no, we're gonna do this our way, and we're going to talk about Reading, and it's going to be solely focused on Reading Football Club. So,
which a lot of clubs are doing now, by the way, not for nothing. Like, I think we were really impressed by Cardiff's setup last season in pre-season, and they had a similar thing going on where they had just guys within the club or whatever, kind of doing the commentary. There's more sort of pretense that commentary in England should be like vaguely both sides are sort of like equal, or at least like amenable to both sides. Whereas in the States, because everything's so regional here with your sports, you get what are called like Homer co-commentators and things like that on like the things, and so they are very, very much supporting their team at the same time as doing that was the kind of vibe you were giving me. Was the man called I'll give you a name for everyone to go look out for. Go look out for Jack Edwards, who used to do the Boston Bruins, the ice hockey calling, and that man just there's like compilations of like when the other team scores in like games against the Bruins, and you wouldn't even know anything had happened unless you were glued into the screen at the time. So anyway, I thought you did a very good job.
Yeah, so he just said, look, listen to the pod. Would you want to come on and do it? And I as I said on commentary, is a dream come true. Very few people get to commentate on their own clubs in a league game, let alone the first one of a new era, in inverted commas. And it was great. Lincoln is very much a family club, very much a local club. It's one of those where you kind of walk through the media entrance, which is basically someone's front room. Yeah. And there are biscuits on a plate, and there is a kitchen for you to make a proper hot drink and stuff, which I declined.
I'm not 100% convinced, by the way, while we're talking League One, like provincial clubs, I'm not 100% convinced that anyone has ever seen Exeter and Lincoln in the same place at the same time. Like, I'm pretty sure those are the same clubs, same state. They just go to a different stadium every, they put on a slightly different kit, and no one's ever seen them in the same place at the same time. And then you were drinking from your dinosaur cup. And I saw the dinosaur cup, so I mentioned the dinosaur cup. Have you been to see Jurassic, whatever it's called, for a second time?
No,
you just have 2 dinosaur cups from that one experience.
100% loved it.
Nice.
Loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, they might be the same club. Who knows? I don't know. But they were really, really good. It's a very, very old stand. Like, you kind of go up. I had like a meal voucher thing as well, where I could get like a pie and a drink. So I kind of felt under pressure from the off, because Phil was like, what pie is he going to choose? Went for chicken balti. That was his choice. So instantly, we're on good terms.
Right.
And you go up, and I think I got into the seat around about 2:10, maybe 2:15, and we were on air, half tier, and that was that really. And it was really, really straightforward. Like, I was not told at all to say anything or be pro this or pro that. I didn't know Rob Coig was going to be listening until he was kind of texting Rob until he was texting Phil throughout the game. So yeah, it was a great opportunity. It really was. It was nice to be on that side of it. Phil was a fantastic guy. Like, he's still learning about the club an awful lot, which is understandable, being new and into our club. But he's got a lot of good ideas. Luke Jarrett's come with him as well from Wickham, I think, and he's been very, very good with those videos you put on, or you see on social media and on the website and stuff. And obviously, Brian, who started off with us, is there as well, and it was great to see him on Saturday too. So there was a lot of positives, and I think it would have been lovely to have picked up the win. But from a selfish point of view, I'll never get that. Well, in terms of first time, I'll never get that experience again. I really hope I get on again and I'm able to do it. But it was just a fantastic.
But your first is always your most special. Yeah. Well, I thought you did a great job, apart from the 1 minute when you saw the pie arriving and you immediately lost all focus on the game with a minute of play to go. And the best thing about it was you didn't just immediately lose focus. You kept talking, but you were now on the pie, which is very much the same as when the third shirt came out last week. And I exactly. Turned to Kat and I said, I feel like I was doing this exact thing that Phil is doing.
I literally, just tried to be me. And if people enjoyed it, great. If they didn't, really sorry. It was a dream come true to be able to do it. And it was just a shame that we couldn't stump up a performance to mark it really.
Well, let's talk about it.
On the performance, I mean, where do you want to pick the bones out of it? Where do you want to start really?
I think it was a weird one, and I think that I was putting together. So obviously it was the return of ratings. This week gone didn't feel I had it in me for the preseason. But ratings are back now, and I'm always checking in with yourself and Sim about what I'm going to put as the final score for a lot of these players. And it was tough because you had just finished up on the co-coms, and you were at that time frustrated with the performance and everything in general. But as I looked through my 11, there weren't too many places where I was like, that person really had a bad game, that person really had a bad game. What it was more is I think the front line on Saturday just really wasn't firing, and that was causing issues further down the road. But I actually think, and it sounds kind of funny because they both made mistakes kind of that led to goals. I thought that Burns, Stickland, Dorset were all pretty good at the back. I was pretty impressed with all of them, and even a Brafer had moments too. Sorry, go ahead.
I think people were particularly on the stuff I was looking at that was coming through, because it sounds awful again, really awful, but I could kind of see the stuff coming through on the Red NFC hashtag because they had it in real time on the laptop. Yeah. And I thought people were, honestly, I thought they were bang out of order, particularly to Dorset and Burns. Like, what are you going to do? It looked like Dorset slipped. I still haven't seen the goal back, but it looked like he slipped. Burns has then done his absolute best to try and block. And there's people going, "Oh, he shouldn't have done this. Like, they should be like."
No,
what could he do in those situations? Yeah, it is a ball over the top. Yes, we were very, very susceptible to that throughout the 90 minutes. But the first goal, it was just one of those situations. Yeah, it should have been stopped at source. Yeah, okay, he shouldn't have slipped, and I still think he slipped. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ross. But
yeah, I think he did. I didn't see it.
What else is he supposed to do? And I'll just let him go. Like, he matched him for pace.
Yeah, no, I actually think
in another moment that goes out for a corner.
100%. Both. Actually, literally like another inch, right, and that goes off his boot and goes out for a corner. Because that's the direction it was deflected anyway. I think Burns was caught out by how good the first touch was from. I'm not sure what the striker was who got that one away. I think it was maybe Street. But in any case, the first touch is so good from the winger. And I don't think the winger even realizes that he was going to get a touch that good, because with that one touch, he's managed to go on the half turn across his body over into Burns's running angle. So Burns has got to, really he's already put on the motor, to track somebody who's not his man because Dorset slipped. And then that touch takes him almost across Burns in one touch too. Maybe someone more smart than me about centre backs can tell me that the positioning's off there, but I don't think it was. I think
it was. And he, pardon the pun, but he definitely put the burners on to catch up with him. Like, Street was away. He had what, half a yard, maybe a yard on Finley at that point. So to get hold of him, quite literally, and match him for pace with his legs.
With his legs, which I did hear you say. Legs. And I enjoyed. Yeah. And Long Kelvin on the pod.
And I got a spicy in as well. I definitely got a
spicy in. Yeah. Do you call Marco Marnie spicy? I think that was what it was.
I don't know. I think it was one of the Lincoln players that got booked. Or
Marco Marnie definitely wasn't spicy. Oh, yeah. McGriddles or McGrandles or whatever his name was.
They were. Yeah, well, we'll come to Lincoln in a minute, because I actually felt they were a good side, to be honest. But, with that first goal, it's not. It's one of those, what can you do? And I think then the heads dropped a little bit. Yeah, okay, we kind of almost got back in it with Wing from downtown with the post. Kamara was 3 yards offside, so I don't know what he was celebrating for, because you could see it a mile off.
Yeah, there's an angle. I'll just say there's an angle that has been going around where it looks maybe like someone's onside, but it's not. It's Kelvin. Definitely Kamara offside with that. But you're right. Like, the momentum of Reading, which had been okay, kind of went after that particular goal from Lincoln for a little while, and they didn't really get it back until much later in the half. And overall, I mean, like, Reading had 66% of the ball in an away game on Saturday, and they just really created next to nothing with it. But the thing is, so I'm looking at like expected goals, only 0.35 from 9 total shots. That's awful, vomit, terrible. shots that hit the post do not count for XG because they're off target, obviously. And
Yeah.
so Lewis Wing, with 2 of those shots, has basically, you know, come so close to scoring, you know, both in the first half and the second half. And if either of those go in, we're looking at a very different game, I think, for the rest of it. But unfortunately, you know, once that second goal had gone in, another sort of error, I think, with the fullback and the centre back kind of miscommunicating.
It was done then. You know, 67 minutes, 70 minutes, it was all over. You know, we came out in the second half, and I thought we were better. We showed a little bit of impetus, but you know, we needed to get that goal and we didn't. Just going back to your stats, I mean, 66% possession, 9 shots in total, 3 on target, compared to Lincoln's 6 and then 2 on target, which were both goals. This is the kicker, though, and this is where you really want to see this progress. Lincoln had 224 passes. We had 448. Double.
Yeah.
Literally double.
And I think there's like a sort of, like we talked about in preseason too, like a lot of the passes are sort of going nowhere in many cases. I think that the second, you know, the last half hour was quite interesting when some of the subs started to come on and we started to see maybe something a little bit different. But I think something that I wasn't necessarily ready for. I think fans should be ready for there to be a slight change in how the team plays this season. And I think that some of the signings that have come in, you know, in the last week in particular, have really pointed towards, you know, maybe a team that's happier to sit in a mid block, that's happy to possess the ball for a little bit longer, if it can then get players into the positions that they want. And again, I'm going to go back to those two posts from Wing. But one thing I did see in that game versus last season was progression in terms of getting Wing into those positions to shoot, because there were numerous times, even outside of those, times when he hit the post, where he was in, the opposition half, in the opposition third, and actually had a little bit of time on the ball, which is something we didn't see too much last season. I think Reading, are almost setting up like they're expecting to be winning in a lot of games, and they're expecting, to be a good team. So, a little bit tough when you have a loss in your first game, and Pereira kept it from being a little bit worse at times as well. But I think there were some good signs in terms of some of those movements. But yeah, once we get to that final third, we're still struggling really to find a killer pass. It is still that case of like bring the ball back out of the box again to Wing, for him to hit it. And I think, Marco Mani in particular was really quite poor in this match, and in terms of creating chances for the strikers, making passes that can actually get to the forwards. Reading were pretty weak in this.
Yeah, I think that was my main frustration. I referenced a lot the forward play in general with the three of them. I'm not going to buy into this Kamara's rubbish and the world's going to end stuff, because I think there's potential there. All right, he was offside, but he was the first one.
This does feel like a reverse from last year, though, because last year we were like, haven't we seen what Kamara can do and all these kinds of things?
Yeah, but look,
I don't think any of these three finished the year as Reading's top.
No, I don't
performer in any of these spots. Personally,
and it is a massive year for Long Calvin, as we said.
Mm-hmm.
Was he okay on Saturday? Yeah. Was he amazing? Absolutely not. There is a lot more, hopefully, and we say that because we don't know, to come from him. Marco Mani did not have a good game, and look, what are we, one league game into the season, but 2 or 3 own Reading career in terms of the friendlies and this league game. I don't see it at the moment. I really don't. He didn't win a single aerial duel. We're not in the habit of writing players off on this pod or the fan site in general, but that was the most frustrating thing. When Paddy Lane came on, who signed as we were speaking last week on the pod, looked like a different ball game, really. The only problem is that we had a mountain to climb with the 2 goals and trying to claw something back. So there are green shoots with this team. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Obviously we've got Kamari Doyle coming in, who I know you're quite keen to speak on, Ross.
And the players coming back too. We're saying that Ben Elliott played in this game, which is, he got 63 minutes done. He got the most dribbles completed in this match, and I think that's something that we miss from Elliott, and he actually could be someone who replaces the legs from Mbenge. Just thinking in terms of the position on the pitch from which Mbenge would start his runs, and Elliott, often is as an 8, he's dropping into the red zone, kind of around the halfway line for the 6 to sort of find in build up. Maybe it goes out then towards the wide space. But Elliott is also very, very good at, instead of just immediately passing out to the wide space, turning and driving into the middle of the field, which is something that Mbenge could do quite well. And at the moment, I haven't seen where that's coming from. So Elliott, I always think of as a creative player. And when I think of a creative player, I think of passing generally first. But he's really one, that actually uses his legs very effectively. So really good to see him back.
One thing before we obviously Kamari Doyle is directly linked to to Harvey Nibbs leaving. We weren't able to give you that news because it hadn't happened by the time we'd knocked out the pod. Do you think that, given the lateness of the deal in the week, in terms of him moving on a Friday, do you think that Noel Hunt had kind of set the team up for Saturday with Harvey Nibbs in, and maybe that had, quite an impact on how they were going to play and what they wanted to do in the game in general?
I actually don't think Harvey was a part of the thinking. I think that they were quite surprised when the deal didn't go through as quickly as they thought it would for Harvey, and then obviously seemed to get salvaged and taken, from there. I think if there's one thing that Noel was kind of carrying through that he didn't necessarily need to, it was carrying through the same sort of attacking trio that had started in the last preseason game, and they hadn't done a whole lot in that preseason game, and I think that strikers and attackers, you want to leave them in their position for a while to try and build up confidence. Obviously, these are not players that are seeing the ball, 60 to 100 times in a game like the center backs, and thus they can build up that confidence just through the routine of playing. But it's tough because like a lot of the oomph, even in that Spurs game for the attack, has come from when the younger players underneath them in the pecking order have come through. I think that this should be I hope they're having a great week on the training ground. I'll say that much, because there is all to play for if you're a player in that front line for Reading right now. I mean, there's
very few dead sets in that team.
Yeah. And whoever jumps through and becomes like that attacking impetus, that guy who's going to really seize the creativity, ahead of Lewis Wing on the field, they're going to be a legend with the fans by Christmas, because, we've been watching a lot of solid football since Sellers left, and it wasn't amazing going forward under Sellers either. But we haven't really had like a ton of exciting attacking football to really sink our teeth into. So if a couple of those players can come good, I think they're really going to endear themselves to the Reading fans. I did was it Ryan or was it the other lad asking Paddy Lane to apologise for cupping his ears to the Reading fans?
I think it was I don't think it was Ryan, but that was good. And he does look all right. Difficult because you're coming on for a cameo appearance for 15-20 minutes when the game's done. But I think there's a lot of potential there, really. And if he's going to stay on the right, which I'm not sure is maybe going to help Garcia at all.
I know we had all that chat about Garcia last week.
We did, and then he comes in and does that. I don't know. There's a lot of fluidity there in terms of the players and the way they can work around it.
Definitely.
I mean, obviously, another one is coming, as we mentioned previously, is Kamari Doyle. Literally just turned 20, in from Brighton and Hove Albion. He, bless him, he's going to be one of those players. He's been with Brighton since 2024, but he's had he was on loan at Exeter. 20 appearances, 3 goals. He was with Crawley Town for most of last season, or at least half of it. 21 appearances, 7 goals, which is really impressive. And now he's with the mighty Royals. We're going to talk about Huddersfield, later on in the pod, because it's now become quite a big game with a lot of expectation attached to it. What do you make of that signing? It was one that's kind of been, I say touted, but there was a few little bits and pieces, earlier on in the window, his name was cropping up and then disappearing. Is this the sort of signing that you pin hopes on, or is it part of a bigger puzzle piece in terms of the jigsaw?
I think it's really, really hard because, again, like last week, we talked about it's hard to make a transfer at this level that gets people really excited, just because, like anyone could, not anyone, but like there's a lot of players you've never heard of who could come in at this level and then actually be really, really good. There's some academy kids right now playing in the Premier League that could come into League One and just boss it. And you would never have heard of them before, obviously. But this particular transfer, though, this one looks quite exciting. I talked about some of them being sneaky good transfers. I don't think this one's sneaky at all. Statistically, he was really good last season, per 90, getting over 2 shots per 90, almost a shot on target every single game. He's producing both XG and expected assists, so he can do a little bit of everything. Got, I think, actually between the two teams, 10 goals last year, from midfield, and 4 assists as well, which is really quite impressive. So I mean, yeah, this is a pretty exciting signing at League One level. And again, we talked about trying to replace minutes and things like that. If you want to try and replace Harvey Nibbs in terms of minutes, well, he played 2,100 minutes last year in League One, Kamari Doyle. So I mean, that's a lot. He played basically what is that, like 20 to 30 games, something like that, or maybe even more. So he's played a lot in League One already. So the league shouldn't be any kind of, difficulty for him in terms of the physicality, getting used to all of those kinds of things. Like we talked to Robbie about Charlie's development in League One, and he talked about how coming down to League One, just dealing with the duels and things like that, that was part of the learning curve for a little while. You'd hope that after a year in League One, Kamari Doyle is not past that curve. Maybe he's only 20, but is at least a little bit more experienced. So this is quite exciting. And again, we're talking about it in relation to Harvey Nibbs. The way in which I think about this in relation to Harvey Nibbs is that this signing and a few of the others, Daniel Chirwa, and things like that we've seen over the last few weeks, I think there might be some changes to how Reading play coming this season. I think that under Sellers, there was this real sort of desire, obviously, to go and win that ball in the final third. And with players, kind of like Harvey Nibbs, like Sam Smith, like Femi Aziz at times, we were able to go into the opposition third and win that ball and then immediately create chances from that. And it's just not something we've seen as much, certainly in the back half of last season from Noel. And I wonder if these signings are kind of him starting to put his thumbprints on the team now in terms of how he wants to play. That's a little bit concerning, or not, maybe not concerning, but a little bit from Reading fans, because we haven't necessarily seen something incredible going forward yet. But I think that there's some depth in the team now. I think there's some flexibility in terms of how they can play. And I'm almost wondering, in a very different way from how I'm sure some people are wondering, I'm wondering if we might end up in a 4-4-2 at some point this season.
How dare you?
I know. It's very traditional. I know. You see weird ones, though. All over, you see weird ones all over football now, though. I was watching Man U a few weekends ago in New Jersey, and they played with a 4-4-2 out of possession as well. And we did already see at times last season, Sam Smith, when he was still with the team, drop down into that sort of like false 9 or like 10 position, when the opposition had the ball. And it's more of like a 4-4-2 diamond, but those wide players, instead of like going straight out in that sort of more 4-1-4-1, getting very wide formation to push forward that we saw in the first season under Sellers, they would instead go really far forward and be the kind of like 2 focal points of the press. So, again, it's a 2 forward thing. I just wonder if Kelvin might be a good candidate for a forward who also does a little bit of workout on the left side. Maybe Chirwa will be a good candidate for that. Lane could be a good candidate for that. Maybe Doyle's a good candidate for one of those spots too. And so I just kind of wonder if there may be some tweaks to how the team plays coming. That was a lot. Sorry.
No, I mean, look, we'll see what happens. As I said at the top of the show, it's 45 league games to go. So,
yeah,
I get the frustration. It's a long old way to go, after a summer of expectation and some of those things not being met and just excitement. And you come away from the ground and you watch it on Sky or whatever. And I'm sure you all felt pretty flat. I felt pretty flat, to be honest. And I had the experience I had. So, the positive is that we have had this, or we've got this week at the moment that we're kind of, in the middle of, in terms of getting development and, seeing if another player comes through or another two players or whatever come through, and just starting to, to implement those ideas on the training pitch, because it's unusual. Normally we'd have the Carabao Cup straight away, or we'd have something going on, but to go from Saturday to Saturday the first week of the season is unusual, but positive for us.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the team's like on Saturday. We'll see what Noel has seen or hasn't seen over the course of this, this 5-6 days or whatever, and go from there. We're going to head into the mailbag now. There's quite a few bits in there. We didn't do a mailbag last week because we were just wittering last week.
We had Wim, so you got to witter.
Well, it's a gas bag, isn't it? It's an absolute gas bag.
Right, exactly.
So,
it's all his fault. So don't look at the fact that the episode last week was shorter than the one the week before. Don't look at that. No.
Like facts on this program. Hate it. Hate it.
Can I actually, before we go into the mailbag, I know we're going to go into the mail. I want to just do one last little point in the review on transfers. I think that there's. This is like a medium risk, high reward strategy with both Paddy Lane, and Kamari Doyle, because both of them outscored their XG massively in their big seasons in League One. So Kamari Doyle had 10 goals from about 5 XG, and I know it was a big overperformance for Paddy Lane as well. I don't have the number right in front of me, but it just kind of, you wonder, is that the indication of a player who can just really hit screamers like Wing, who consistently also outperforms his XG, or are they going to revert? Even like 5 goals and 4 assists last year would have been pretty good from a 19-year-old in League One. So I'm excited about Kamari Doyle, but there is potential for them. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with both Doyle and Lane this season coming, basically, just because they have massively outscored their XG.
Yeah, and again, there's an argument to say, well, getting all these loan players in is not positive, but that's where we are. That's literally where we are at the moment. So we'll look forward with excitement. Right, mailbag time. So give us a minute, and we will be back. Alrighty, diving straight in. Lots. So Matt, sorry, should have said it straight away. Matt, MC9881. Okay, so MC981871.
Just read out his entire phone number on the podcast.
Yeah, I know. It's his handle. It's not mine. Lots to talk about bringing one striker in, but I think 2 are needed. Most clubs in League One, regardless of what formation they play, have at least 3 striker options. Kelvin E for me is a left winger option only, and I'm unsure the academy lads are ready. We need to be ruthless. Are there 2 strikers that we can get in?
I mean, I think that Marco Mani will be better than he was, against Lincoln later on in the season. But yeah, I definitely agree that we need another striker there to push him, because I think that, I agree with you. I see Kelvin as a left winger as well, but I don't know if that's entirely how Noel sees him. We saw Kelvin go into the middle of the field again, towards the end of the game on Saturday. So I do think that that's kind of like the next man up that Noel thinks about. And so yeah, I would definitely say that we probably need another traditional striker. But again, just kind of going back to what I was saying in the previous segment, Dinosaur Cup again, very good. I think there may be a slight change coming to how Reading play, and even if we do end up in this sort of like 4-4-2-ish sort of thing, I don't think that necessarily means traditional strikers, traditional left and right mids. It's not a Convey and Little situation. It's very different. It's more of like a sort of Mason Mount almost player up top. So I think there may be some changes coming, and we'll see how that impacts the team. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree that Marco Mani needs competition, because as of right now, we for the level that we're aiming for, he hasn't been good enough. That's where it is. And it's, it is where it is for right now. I expect that he has the ability to improve.
Jordan, Overland in 1871. That's a nice hashtag. Or
That's a good
handle.
one.
I like that. Does Doyle go straight into the starting 11 for Saturday?
Of course, Kay Doyle gets right into the Reading iconic 11. Straight
Where do you play him, though? Where do you stick him?
Probably it's tough because Kamara was arguably the best of the starters, but none of the forwards were particularly great on Saturday. So probably, but then again, you probably put Lane there, don't you? You probably want to play Lane in that sort of position. I think, you know, it's tough. There are choices to make there are players, if I leave them on the bench, that I feel that I'm leaving an opportunity on the bench now with Reading. Like already there is some depth here, you know, and especially as it pertains to the sort of attacking players. Where would I play him?
You'd play him on a bloody pitch, wouldn't you? That's where you play him.
Yeah, I mean, like, unless you want to, the person I probably haven't replaced is Marco Mani, and I don't know if that's the kind of player that necessarily Kamari Doyle is. But if you played Lane on one side and Kelvin, you know, Long Kelvin on the other side, then you've got two guys that can shoot, you know, the ball really well ahead of him. So maybe that's what you do. Maybe you put Kamari Doyle in for Marco Mani for his first game. Who knows?
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Love that word.
Yeah, it's a good word.
Nice positive word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Loyal Royal, who is very loyal to this pod, I have to say. We appreciate everything you do in terms of commenting and liking and spreading the good word. So we do really, really appreciate it. So thank you very much for that. Does not go unnoticed, by the way. So thank you, Loyal Royal. Happy new season, everyone. Will be good to see how far we've come by the time we play Lincoln in the return game. That is a very, very good point. Yeah. Given that we lost to them twice last year, that is a very, very good point. But have just checked in, and that's in 41 league matches time. Wow.
Okay. Right. Book your tickets now. It definitely won't be moved. There's no way. No, travel. Don't book travel insurance. It's not necessary.
No,
you know?
don't do that. Sky definitely won't bin it off to a
Thursday night football or whatever. We can talk trash about that this week.
Talk about that now. Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Let's hope for a big change by then. Project has only just begun, and we're blessed to have a club. Yeah, I mean, I think there's only so far you can go with the lucky to have a club stuff. I mean, I think that hits home more with what is happening to Morecambe, who I think have got until the 20th of August before they're completely expelled from the league. At the moment, they're suspended from their league. That, you know, all this stuff about them dying is kind of partially true. They're not dead yet, but they're on the way to that. I think that's a really pertinent point, actually. You know, because I thought Lincoln were really good. I have to say, I thought they were very, very solid. They did all the naughty bits. They did, you know, all the kind of the basics absolutely spot on. And 41 games time, I think that is a really good marker, personally.
Yeah, fair. I thought they were okay. I thought that they had a game plan and they stuck to it and they executed their game plan very well. And if that, you know, like at the end of the day, that gets you 3 points, jobs are good. And like that kind of works. I thought there was an opportunity for Reading to win that game, especially I think I messaged you at halftime. They need to keep the ball on the ground because every time they had the ball on the ground, they were winning everything. And every time that the ball went up in the air, they were losing everything. And so that was kind of where I was like, look, there's a clear way here in which Lincoln are not doing so well. We need to exploit that. But I do think that, you know, again, we talked about during the preview last week that the issue for Reading this season is going to be, can they score goals without relying on their star players? And I've talked about how, you know, it'd be a different game if one of those goals from wing or one of those shots that hits the post from wing goes in. But again, that's me relying on the star players. So
yeah, you're right, though. You know, he gets the equaliser at 1-1, different ball game. Yeah, and that's a really crass, obvious thing to say, isn't it? But it would have been, you know, and we kind of got our tails up a little bit, and it's the same after half time. You know, had that shot gone in as well. You know, we equalised then when they were really under the cosh. I mean, their goalie faked an injury. That's how under pressure they felt. You know, it would have been a completely different outcome. So yeah, and
I think too, I think there's a case to be made that the subs could have done even better too if the subs on the right side had a bit more time on the training ground together, because I thought that when I was watching Lane and Fraser in the last 20 minutes of that game, I thought that both physically and creatively, both of them were actually, they had some interesting moments. I thought that Fraser looked a little bit leggy, just like that he hadn't had a preseason basically, which is pretty much the case, I think. And I thought Lane looked pretty good too. They just couldn't quite link up, or they didn't quite have a sense of where the other one was going to be. In the same way that Elliot and Kamara had in the first 60 minutes, I thought. So, but positive signs somewhat, but just not quite as connected mentally as they would need to be.
These next three are all to do with formations, really. So I'm going to kind of lump them together, but reference them individually. London Royal 89, discussion and formation. What do we think is best now with all the new faces? Jamie Wykes. Have I said that right? It looks like Wykes.
Wykes. Who knows?
Wykes. It's not Wicks.
My wife calls it Wyke.
If I said the name wrong, I'm really sorry. It looks like Wykes, but just tell me if it's wrong. Should we go with 4-2-3-1 with Elliot, Kamara, Doyle in the number 10? At the moment, we have no one behind the striker. And then finally, Georgie Dawes, who again is pretty loyal to this podcast, think the players are fine. What concerns me is the management side of things. Need to learn lessons quicker regarding how we set the team up. You alluded, we didn't allude, you just said it, that there's a possible 4-4-2 coming, or you feel that might be in the offing. What kind of we'll mix the mailbag in with the preview a little bit now. What do you do on Saturday against Huddersfield, formation wise? Forget about the players, just go formation.
Yeah. So 4-4-2 for me doesn't have to be a million miles away from what they were kind of doing through preseason and things like that. And so basically, what I think you would do would be to take. I would take probably the same back four again, maybe Porty, O'Connor for Stickland if he's available, and that's harsh-ish on Stickland, but I definitely put
very
Porty
harsh. I thought
back.
It was excellent. Stickland, I thought it was absolutely
again,
excellent's a bit over the top, isn't it? It's a bit over the top.
I gave him a 6. I think he was perfectly fine.
Give him a 6,
maybe, yeah, or maybe I gave him a. I don't think so. Yeah, maybe
you
I gave him
a 5.
Maybe.
Yes, no way if I'd have seen that, I would have got on a plane and hit you.
Wow, that's all right. You're on your way to Newport, so I didn't need to worry, did I?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
What was you talking about? 4-4-2. Yeah. Okay. So you can do it without changing too much. Obviously, you put Porty in at the back. You call up David Button, you bring him in, and you switch out Pereira, you put David Button in. But then in front of David Button in the back four, you kind of go, you keep Wing, you keep Elliot, you keep Savage, and then I think you drop Marco Mane, you put. It's almost like a 4-4-2 diamond sort of thing, whereby, again, either you just drop that 9 a little bit deeper and have him actually help out with the build-up and then play out to the wide spaces, because Kelvin is so good at getting to the, getting to the byline and then making that cutback. That's something that he's good at, or he can cut inside and take a shot early. So I would maybe start with, in that sort of 10-ish false 9-ish spot, Kamari Doyle.
We haven't really talked about Danny Kaye, because there was times when him and Kelvin were trying to link up. They just didn't really know where each other was, and particularly when Kelvin was elevated a bit more, he was trying to put the balls in a little bit to it. They would just overhit, or they weren't quite in the right spot or whatever. But
I felt bad for him.
Yeah, he's and he's going to be overlooked now, I think, to be honest with you.
It was definitely a service thing. Like, he was, there's an element to say that, like, if you need to be making better runs so that the service can actually find you when you're open and these kinds of things. But there were a few times when Chirwa was just throwing a hospital pass, and that was this. I'm saying Chirwa because Phil was saying it.
That's
on
right.
The
Yeah, I just by the way.
No, I think Daniel Kaye's cool too. I like that too. Yeah. I did not realize.
He said separately when they interviewed him, both his brother and Daniel said the name the same way. Okay. So basically, he was saying he wasn't being stitched up. That's how you say it.
Yeah. That's actually true. You got to catch them in that authentic moment, not when they're aware.
Yeah,
they're being watched in all these kinds of ways. So anyway, I don't think Noel drops Kelvin. I think Noel has a really high opinion of Kelvin, and I don't know if I share it, but I think Noah likes Kelvin a lot. I would expect that you sort of see probably what looks like a 4-3-3 again in the lineup graphic, but maybe Kamari Doyle plays in that sort of striker position for lack of a better term. Because to be honest, playing the ball over the top to Marco Mani just wasn't working at all, and he's a big lad. So if that wasn't working, maybe just stop trying that quite so much. And again, Reading were good with the ball at their feet, I thought, at least in the first 2/3. So yeah, I thought Dorset had a couple really nice turns too. But yeah, as a kid on a quad bike who's just started going up and down my road, and I swear this kid is driving me up the wall. He just all day up and down. Summer holidays almost over.
Is it?
Yeah, almost.
What? When do you get back?
I've got my boys come back to start playing football with me, not next week, but the week after.
So not too
far. Depends. Some of them start like first week of September, and then a few of them start like last week or even like second to last week of August. They finish way earlier than us over here.
How long do they get off in America? Like 8 weeks.
Yeah, similar amount of time, 8-ish weeks. A lot of them go off too to like sleepaway camps for the whole summer. So like they'll be gone for like 6 or 7 weeks. But yeah, speaking of America, we have an America kind of question in the mailbox, don't we?
We do. Yeah, we do. I was trying to find that. Let me have a look.
Fanatics.
Right. Okay. So Pavel Glazunov. I hope I said that right. If not, just let me know. Really sorry. I hate getting people's names spelled wrong. We'll just call you Pavel G.
Yeah.
For now.
Nice.
So he said,
Pavel Chirwa.
Yeah, for discussion on the podcast, not Codpast, and especially for Ross, as he also lives in the United States, I just submitted the below complaint to the club. But I think the issue needs more awareness potentially and could be a good topic of discussion. If you have a good contact at the club to raise this issue to as well, that might be helpful. All right, so I guess we can read this out. I'm going to anyway. Good day. What a nice way to start an email.
It's good, isn't it? We're very polite.
You that very often. You get that, do you?
Right.
Thank you. It has come to my attention that none of the Reading kits are available to be shipped to the United States due to merchandising agreements. I suspect this is a Fanatics-related issue. Our new owner, Rob Coig, is based in New Orleans and has recently stated in several media interviews that he's trying to build Reading FC as a global brand, such that you might randomly see a person wearing a Reading kit in Times Square or elsewhere. However, if the product is unavailable for shipment to the United States, this creates an impasse seemingly. I, for one, was attempting to purchase 2 home kits and 1 third kit amongst other merchandise. However, now I cannot purchase anything. Why pay for shipping if I'm not getting the main product I was looking for, and no additional revenue is brought into the club as a result? Have you had that issue, or do you just get them when you come over?
Well, yeah, that's actually the thing, isn't it? Like I always get them when I come over, and I guess that like I'm lucky in that I can come over a decent, every year or so, and sometimes more. And I'm actually still planning for this year, by the way, to try and get to the last game of the season. So that will be. That's the next time I'm coming in. Hopefully, it'll be the last game of the season. So that could be a tasty one. But anyway, I hadn't noticed, but like actually. It's just kind of interesting because like we talked about, like Kuig wants to have the club be represented across the across the world, and America is one of the really emerging markets for football right now. I mean, I'm sitting right here next to my Portland Hearts of Pine shirt right here, and I've got my Bournemouth shirt from the Premier League kind of games that were happening here a few weeks ago as well. So there's a lot kind of going on, and I think that just making sure that it's about 10% of our podcast listenership too that affects as well if it's not possible. So there's lots of places, obviously not just the States, where we want things to be able to be shipped. We want them to be able to be shipped internationally to people in Asia, to people in Africa, wherever.
It does seem bizarre, and I'm not sure anyone at the club will be able to solve that given the commitment that the club have to I mean, I might be wrong, I don't know, but I think they're right. I think spot on. It's going to be a fanatics issue.
Yeah.
I just think it's slightly odd, isn't it? We've got an American owner who's based in America. We're talking about building the brand, all the rest of it. You can't get, it's no good having this situation if you can't get shirts out to where they need to be. So
they got to get the shirts into Dick's Sporting Goods, Ben. That's the thing. They're where, like, if you're not in Dick's, you're nowhere over here.
Don't say that.
No, it is.
Don't say it like that. That sounds awful.
I've got a Dick's sponsorship, mate. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's great. They're wonderful. They're actually, it's really funny. They have a silly name, but they're actually a really good store.
File this under another one of those. Do you listen to what you say?
Yeah. Wow. No is the answer to that. So whatever. But yeah, I don't know. The only thing I will find funny is in Pavel. I'm not suggesting this is the case at all. I think you're probably right. But I did find it quite funny when you and Phil were talking on the comms about how Kuig had been texting him saying, "Oh, the sound's not working," or something like that.
Yeah,
and then actually what was happening is his television was off.
Amazing.
Yeah. The duopoly of man at that age, like understanding that a new level of communication and everything like that is necessary, while also not always knowing how to work your own television.
Yeah, it's funny. It was funny to read that.
We've all
final
been
one.
there.
Valmar asks why I constantly talk about biscuits and snacks. I'm always bringing them up. Apparently, I do what I bloody want, mate. Do you know what I mean?
This is what you pay for.
Thank you for sponsoring us. I really appreciate it. And if it ever becomes too much to listen to, just tell me, and I will never ever mention it again. As long as you can carry on sponsoring us, please.
Did you eat a Tunnocks while you were on
I did.
Yeah. Okay. I thought you might.
And a couple of Colin the Caterpillars from Marks and Spencer's.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, it was a feast. We had the pie. We had Tunnocks each, and then we had half a bag of Colin the Caterpillar.
I'm a little bit sad now, though, because I thought you'd pulled Colin the Caterpillar out of your brain out of nowhere. But I see now that there were Colin the Caterpillars in front of you.
They were flying up and down that media stand, I tell you. They were everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We're never going to start talking about snacks, that basically, if you're wondering. So, yeah.
We're gonna move to the preview. Huddersfield, the Terriers. Stupid nickname. Terrible place, Huddersfield. Add that to your list.
Right. Okay.
So we write that down now. We're gonna talk about that in the preview. Right. Welcome back to the final part of the Tilehurst podcast, episode 426 for your listening and viewing pleasure. Available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. Big thanks, as always, to ZT Said Films and Voldemar, despite what I just said about me saying whatever the hell I like. And, of course, to the Amazons for giving us one of their massive bangers as our main theme tune. Huddersfield, Ross. 12:30 KO at the Stade DSCL.
12:30 kickoff in Huddersfield. So good luck to Sim. He'll be waking up tomorrow.
No, it was a home game. It's a home game. Don't worry. It's a home game.
You're right. That's a good point. Well, sorry to Huddersfield Sim then, I suppose.
Yeah, whoever the equivalent is. But it's 12:30 kickoff because it's on Sky Sports. They won their opening game 3-0 against Huddersfield.
Against Leyton Orient.
Currently top of the... Huddersfield. We're having a mare, aren't we? Huddersfield beat Leyton Orient.
Smashed
3-0. They're top of the table currently. I mean, you can't really say anything about them.
Not a whole lot more than we said last week about them, really. And I didn't have them that high up in my list of teams, at that time. But obviously a good result. They're the ones that went out and spent the money on Alfie May. They'd gotten rid of Josh Koroma, a few months prior. So I think that, they kind of had some money in the wage budget lying around. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty new setup, new team from Huddersfield. It's difficult to say too much about them other than it's a pretty impressive opening day win, I'd say, against a team that were really, really hot in 2025 last year. I mean, we know all about Leyton Orient and how frustrating, they could be. So yeah, it's yeah, a little bit. Be interesting to see which kind of Huddersfield we get. Have they turned a corner, or did they just have a really good day?
I mean, it's a big day for us as a football club. There was a lot of talk in the lead up to Lincoln about it being a new era, but I don't think you really feel that new era unless you're at home. And there is expectation this season for us to do well. There is an expectation for us to play a certain brand of football, I think, which we definitely didn't see on Saturday, but we're hopeful we will see that in the coming games and weeks. I wonder that maybe we are playing Huddersfield at exactly the wrong time after their, quite tasty result. Because don't forget, Leighton Orient were in the playoffs last year.
Yeah,
they had a good season, very, very good season.
It's a very similar to Birmingham kind of thing, but with much less money. It's sort of like a Birmingham on the cheap that Huddersfield are almost trying to do this year, and that they've appointed a manager who was first team coach, at a big side. So they've appointed Lee Grant. He was one of the assistants underneath. Oh, the lad at Ipswich. Can't remember his name, but the manager over there who's taken Ipswich through too. And that was similar with Birmingham. McKenna, thank you. Yeah, and I know that with Birmingham, their manager had also been a first team assistant on, like some Premier League team or something. I'm not even sure, but you see this path all the time now. I'm sure that they've had a whole preseason to work through this stuff, and like we said, their season kind of ended 2 or 3 weeks before the season ended. Anyway, they were really on that downward trajectory, so they've had time to kind of plan these things. And so, unfortunately, you could be right. We might be playing them. We might be playing them at the wrong time. Just a funny note about Lee Grant: his son is called True, just True. His son is called True Grant, which sounds like it sounds like a loan category from the student loans company, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it does, really, doesn't it?
Interesting.
That's a bit odd. I'm looking at their kit as well. I'm not sure about that. It's another Castore kit.
You asked me, so I got to ask you now. Who are you starting in this game, and are you keeping the 4-3-3-ish formation? For moving forward.
Well, it's a really good question. I think. Oh God. I don't want to be that guy.
Armani after one game.
Yeah, I do.
Because,
I do.
And I said it too.
He didn't win a single aerial duel. He didn't win any of his battles on Saturday at all. So we can talk about balls into him and position everything else. But when you're not winning those things, all right, he came up against two pretty solid centre halves in Jackson and Bradley. But it's still not, there wasn't really anything to hold on to in that performance.
You've got to find something and adapt, don't you? You've got 100%. You've got to, if it's not working, when the ball goes over the top to you and you're that deep down the field, drop deeper then and try and come
exactly right.
with your feet and do something with your feet to kind of get involved in the game, which is something that we saw definitely from Smith and Wareham. Unfortunately, Marnie was a downgrade on what we saw from Wareham towards the end of the season last year on Saturday. But it's tough, isn't it? Strikers are complex players.
I think he comes out. I think probably Kamara gets dropped. I think he will persist with. I say persist again. I'm not trying to be negative here, guys. I'm just thinking it through in my head. I think Kelvin still starts, and I think Doyle and Lane come in for those two players. I just don't know the makeup of what the team looks like. I think he gives Elliott another go. I think he obviously will leave Savage and Wing in there. I thought they were okay on Saturday, the pair of them. I think the other thing is really if O'Connor is not fit, and I have no idea where we're at with him from a fitness point of view at the moment. As you alluded to earlier, I think it'd be really harsh on Stickland to be dropped. I really, really do. I thought he was okay.
He got
Burns was good. I think it's too early to start binning off most of the team. If he started going, right, well, Dorset and Braith are out and we're going to swap that round, I don't think that's the right decision at this stage. I certainly think the defence, as much as you can, you leave it as is. I really, really do. The midfield in front, I think, should stay the same. It's just that those little tweaks in the forward line. And I think I don't think it would set the right message or the right precedent if he just went, right, well, I'm going to make 4 changes. Like, what? I don't know why you would do that when you come up against, a really good Lincoln side who ultimately becoming a very difficult side for us to play against. As I said, we've not beaten them in the league, whatever for 40 years or so in terms of playing them up at their place. So, I think he has to keep the faith a little bit and not make wholesale changes. I think
Things can happen.
How the result goes on Saturday, and then you've got the Portsmouth game, haven't you?
Yeah.
On the Tuesday, and then you've got the Wimbledon home game on the Saturday. So that's when you might start to see a few more chops and changes and things progressing from there.
Yeah, I think that's actually fair. I think that's fair. I was thinking things are quite volatile at this stage of the season, but maybe not volatile enough that you wholesale change things after one game. But yeah, I was just thinking like about 2 years ago with obviously Carroll and players like Nesta Guinness-Walker and that's still in the team against Port Vale, and they were given their opportunity against Peterborough and then Port Vale. And then after that, it was like, all right, wrap this up. We're changing, at least the personnel, and that was kind of achieved through again, a decent performance in the cup from the players, including Bindon that eventually came through. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you keep it fairly similar, for this particular week, and if it's not working after that, you have an opportunity to change things a little bit against, with 2 games that are either a little less important or against, a team like Wimbledon that you would at least expect to be able to beat at home. So yeah.
Well, we're not going to do predictions because that massively backfired.
Yeah, that was bad.
What are you hoping, apart from the obvious, what are you hoping to see on Saturday?
I want Reading to score a goal in both halves, because I think they need to show that they can weather different phases of play and things like that, and then still come out and score goals and be creative. If they have a performance whereby they maybe say it's 2-2, but they score their 2 goals after the subs, come on, and that's how that happens. That kind of indicates, well, the changing game, and they were able to ride that particular momentum. But we want to see progress that's replicatable, right, from Reading, that they can go and show every single week. And so yeah, I think that I want to see phases of the game pass and Reading still able to score goals in both halves. But it's now been 4 weeks since we've scored a goal.
Listen, again, I don't want to keep banging on about it, but Phil said, at the end of the commentary, he'd like to be able to commentate on a Reading goal, and I was like, haha, what? And then I realised he'd done the Gillingham game, that was 0-0. He'd done the Portsmouth game, that was 4-0. He did the Spurs game, that was 2-0, and he did the Lincoln game, that was 2-0. So in 4 games of going, 4 fingers, and doing what he was doing for All TV, he's not commentated on a goal yet.
Yeah, right. So right,
that shows you where the problem is, and that's why I don't want to be like, "Wow, Marnie's the problem," because it's a collective thing. The goals have got to come from somewhere, but there is a fundamental problem with us scoring goals at the moment.
Yeah, 100%, and we have suggested things, fans have suggested things, but at the end of the day, Noel needs to go out and show us something in terms of how the team are going to score goals. So yeah, we await with bated breath.
We do. Listen, thank you very much for everyone for listening. Don't know what I was going to say then. Episode 426, that's a wrap. We hope you have a good week. We hope that you are okay and keeping well. Look after yourselves. We're into August. We love a bit of August football. Absolutely love it. The season started in full swing. Ross is ready. He's getting all these early starts in. What time are you up on Saturday? 6 o'clock?
I did. Yeah, no, it'll be not that early, luckily, but it'll be 7:30. Normally, when there's a 7:30 game, I just sort of roll over at about 7:29. I'm not gonna lie. So,
without getting too personal, do you watch it in bed?
Sometimes it depends if I'm going to rile up the dogs, and then if that's the case, then no, I'll go on downstairs. I want to let my wife sleep, get her beauty. She's committed to Reading, but she's not 7:30 committed. So, which is, I think we can all understand that. Yeah,
I suppose we can. Luckily for us, it's a home game on Saturday. 12:30 kickoff. Don't get caught out by that. Have a really good week ahead of you. You'll be listening to this on Wednesday, so you've got a couple of days left before you get down to the Madstad. We will see you next week for episode 427. Ross, look after that hair.
Thank you.
Stay classy.
Yep.
And
look after those vocal pipes.
Yeah, exactly. And don't have a go at the quad bike kid. He's just a kid.
Well, he's just a kid, but he's going to be a kid in a ditch soon if I'm through with him. So anyway,
just to confirm, Ross isn't going to kill anybody. All right, so just don't come at us with that. We're doing well so far.
I'm a coach. Ben's a teacher. Presumably, we've all done like some sort of safe training, so it's all fine.
Exactly right.
And
yeah, we
going
know
to end
what
up
we're
in a
doing.
ditch. Yeah. So anyway,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Have a good week. As I've said about 15 times, we will see you soon. And come on, you R's.